What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing? Here I come. Here I come. Here I come. Whew. All right, there we go. What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday to y'all. Happy Saturday. I know, right? Little baby be coming in. She don't be playing with y'all. Little baby don't be playing. Yes, little baby. That's my boo thing. All right, you guys. Let's get ready. Let me share this out and we're going to get ready to get started. So, I told y'all I'm trying to get caught up on some of these reviews, honey. And this is one that I've been wanting to watch and review for a minute. So we're going to be talking about Rick James, the documentary over on Showtime. Y'all know we're going to talk about the things of the things of the things. And then we're going to get into it. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, guys. Ooh, I got a chill just now. Ooh. Oh, shoot. I did it. Okay. What's up, everybody? So let me do my roll call and we're going to get into it. So what's up, Lock Queen? Hey, Carolyn. Hey, Keita Capricorn. Six Sad World. Hey, yes, I'm here for this live. Love me some Rick James. This was a beautiful yet sad documentary. I watch it every time it comes on. What network is on Showtime? What's up, Star? Hey, L Love. What's up, boo? Hey, C Golden. Of course, little baby's in the chat. Hey, Raven. Once again, you know what? So let me start there. It absolutely was a great documentary. It was a really, really good documentary. As somebody who, like, again, you know, I grew up on Rick James because late 70s, early 80s, I was still kind of young, but I absolutely remember Rick James, love Rick James. I remember the Mary Jane Girls. I remember watching, and it was funny, we'll get to that when I talk about his feud with MTV. At this point, I can't remember what videos I saw on MTV versus what videos I saw on Video Soul, or like here we had a local video show that came on our Channel 9 network with local DJs. If anybody from the DC area, y'all in my age group, y'all know what I'm talking about. Candy Shannon, and it was the other guy. It was Candy Shannon. I remember Candy Shannon. And they would be live from some of the local nightclubs in the DC area, and they would show videos, and that came on. I want to say that came on Friday night, like right after the 11 o'clock news. And then there was Friday night videos that used to come on NBC, and that came on a little bit later. Like that came on at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. They were more like MTV. Like they played a lot of the more, white music or whatever. But of course, we had Video Soul over on BET, which was really a direct response to MTV not playing a lot of black artists. But we'll get to that. So for those who do not know who Rick James is, first of all, if you don't know who Rick James is, shame on you, and you need to go and Google. Okay, not now, but later. You need to. Well, thank you, Jonathan, but you need to go Google later. Don't Google now. Wait till we done over here, and then you go Google. I got 3 pages of notes, child, because it was a real good documentary. So the name of the documentary is called it's called Bitchin', The Sound and Fury of Rick James. Okay, so that's first of all. Sasha Jenkins is the director, I guess. So it starts off, we see this white Porsche, this nice white Porsche convertible, blasting Mary Jane. Was it Mary Jane, y'all? I think it was Mary Jane. Blasting Mary Jane. We see the woman, she's got blonde hair, and she is, doing her thing, looking, she looked like money, okay? She definitely looked like money. And when we see, thank you, Danny, Perfect title. It was. It was right. The perfect title. Watching music, yeah. You know what? There's a documentary on Music Video Box. I might look at that, Raven, and see if it's worth talking about. I saw that. That's on Showtime too. I saw that when I went in to look. If you have Showtime, you can get it on demand. You can get it on demand. You got your hoodie. Yes, honey. Look, they owe me some money because when I tell you, so many of y'all have ordered that hoodie. Once I posted it on Facebook, I've seen at least 6 or 7 Bennett Bells who have purchased that hoodie. And I bought myself a hoodie, and I actually bought um a hoodie for my friend Langston, who went to Norfolk State. I feel like they owe me something, but because I posted it all over my social media, and people actually bought it. But anyway, I don't do stuff for nobody to recognize me, but it would be nice for a discount. Anyway, Showtime has some great documentaries. They absolutely do. They have some great documentaries. So we see her going to a storage unit, and come to find out, this is his oldest daughter. Her name is Ty. And the first thing I thought was, well, this definitely not going to be a documentary about how destitute the family is and how the family. That's the one thing in this whole documentary. At no point in time is any of the family, talking about they broke. Now that didn't come up, which is a good thing, because I hate saying these documentaries with these people who made all this money, and at the end of it all, not only do they not have anything to show for, but they ain't leave their family nothing. But it looks like Rick James did right by his publishing, and his publishing is keeping his family good. That's what it looked like. That's definitely what it looks like. Now I know his money got funny when he got, with the drugs, and he wasn't touring and he wasn't making any money. But now they're probably really just living off of his catalog. Now that, I hate to say it like this, but now that Rick James isn't alive to snort it and smoke it all up, his catalog is probably making a lot of money. Because, remember, he came along. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. But remember, he came along at a time period during Motown where artists were actually getting royalties and getting publishing, and they were writing their own music, unlike the 1960s, early 1970s Motown, where it was just like an assembly line, and you were just the artist. You didn't write your own music, you didn't produce your own music, you didn't do anything, so you didn't make a lot of money off of your music because you didn't do any of it. But Rick James came along at a time where he wrote, he produced, he arranged, he did all that shit. So anyway, I listened to Fire Desire at least 5 times we listened. That song is a masterpiece. I don't give a damn. And I hate that neither one of them, his voice was gone towards the end. He had lost his voice. She still had hers, but I just hate that neither one of them are here. But baby, that song is a masterpiece. But anyway, so she starts going through all of his belongings, and it looks like not only is all his stuff, a lot of his stuff preserved, a lot of his stuff in storage. It looks like it's in good storage. There's storage, and then there's good storage. We just rented a local storage unit, and we just put a bunch of his shit in there, and it is what it is. And then it's good storage, where they have it in actual wooden containers, and it's packaged up. It's in climate controlled. It's, what I'm saying? His stuff is in good storage. And his daughter said a lot of that stuff they haven't even looked at in 12 years. So I don't know if they were pulling all of that stuff out for the purpose of the documentary, or if they would get ready to have an estate, start maybe selling off some of his stuff, or maybe because they were opening up stuff that was like furniture and stuff like that. So it didn't look like they were opening up his papers and his awards and stuff like that. But it did sound like it looked like they were going through some of his stuff for the purposes of maybe starting to downsize and sell it. Because when I say that facility where those boxes were, it was huge. It was like a warehouse size facility. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna get a storage unit. No. And you could definitely tell that it had been well preserved. But I feel like some of his costumes and stuff like that, they could probably donate to different places if they haven't already. Some of his stage stuff. But as far as his furniture and stuff like that, if it isn't sentimental to the family, then it's time to sell some of that stuff or just donate, you know. I feel like if they would have like an estate sale, a lot of fans and stuff would buy some of that stuff. You know, you like that bench that they pulled out. Like if y'all not gonna hold on to it for sentimental reasons, at this point, y'all could probably just have one big ass auction, estate sale, and a lot of that stuff would sell. A lot of that stuff would sell. But anyway, we way off topic. Anyway, but that's how the whole thing started. And so we start with his daughter, Ty James, and from there we go to his death, and then we flash back to the beginning, so to speak. You would go to a Rick James museum. Now I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I probably wouldn't go to a Rick James museum. But you know, Motown has a museum where he could probably, if it's not already in the Motown museum, they could donate some stuff there. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Smithsonian, you know, the Black Smithsonian, that's what we call it down here, the Black Smithsonian, girl. Or the Blacksonian, actually. We call it the Blacksonian. Like, you know what I'm saying? But a whole museum dedicated to Rick James, I don't know. It's a documentary. It's me, D. I'm about to turn, busting out, and get my life right. Listen, imagine how much a couch would go for. Some of the items would probably go for a lot of money. Now, other items, maybe not so much, but some of those items would go for a lot of money. Like, you know, again, it looks like they got a little bit of everything up in there. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, yeah. You saw the documentary, it was really good. I watched it. It was so good. I thought it was really good too. So we start, okay. He died in 2004, which I didn't realize it had been that long since he passed away. Like, damn. Because when she said this stuff's been in storage for 12 years, and I was thinking, he's been dead 12 years? But 2004. So his legal name is James Ambrose. So the James, the last name of his stage name, Rick James, and we'll get to how he got his name, but his middle name is, his first name is James, and then his middle name is Ambrose, and he's one of 8 children. They were from Buffalo, New York. Now listen, there's a whole lot going on in Rick James' childhood, okay? So I'm going to just give y'all, I definitely go to a Prince museum. I absolutely would. Now, they did like a funk museum where they had like Bootsy Collins and Sly and the Family Stone and Rick James and Prince and Atomic Dog, George Clinton. I would go to something like that, but just Rick James. Now I like Rick James, but just Rick James? I don't know about that. Anyway. So like they have the trap museum down in Atlanta where they have like all the different trap artists. Like I would do something like that. But anyway, so I said he was from Buffalo, New York, right? So his dad was abusive. Now they don't talk a lot about his dad other than to say his dad was abusive. And that he grew up, you know, basically in that environment of the abuse and seeing his dad abuse his mom. He said his first sexual encounter was he was 8 or 9, but he doesn't really go into any detail about that. He just said that his first sexual encounter was 8 or 9, but then he went on to say that at 13. So I feel like when he says his first sexual encounter, I'm thinking maybe some oral, maybe some grinding and bumping, some touching, because he went on to talk about at 13, an older babysitter actually tried to have sex with him. And he said that the only reason why he didn't really get a chance to finish the act is because his mama came in and whooped her ass. He said, you know, back in them days, you didn't call no social services. You didn't call the police. You handled it amongst yourself. He said, and my mama handled it. She whooped that lady ass. Okay. Now, we found out that his mother she ran numbers. She was a numbers runner up in Buffalo. She wanted to get into music. She was a dancer and she used to hang out at the little jazz clubs and stuff, but that didn't really work out for her. So she became a numbers runner and actually had him delivering packages. So Rick James was a hustler from the word go, and it was sort of in his family, and he really ain't had no choice in the matter because his mama had him running around here doing it and yada, 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 right? It's always the desperate, nasty asshole. I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but you're right. You right. You right. I got an update about the Morris Day debacle. Okay, y'all got a little bit of an update too, but go ahead and put it in the chat. If it's not too much to type, go ahead and put it in the chat, little baby. Because somebody in the comments was like, "This is misleading. He can use the name Morris Day. He can't use the name Morris Day in the time." Well, I felt like that's what I had said. I felt like I said he couldn't use Morris Day in the time because I felt like I said Morris Day is his legal name, so like that's actually his name. But because remember, I even said I wonder if he could do it under the time. He just couldn't do it under Morris Day and the time. Remember I said that? But okay. Yeah, I know people be coming in my comments wanting to tell me I'm wrong, child. Now, they said that Rick was a delinquent. You know, he was always in trouble, always fighting. They said he was definitely no choir boy. And Rick James started using drugs at a very young age, which is important because this is not a situation where the industry turned him into a drug addict. Now, crack changed the game, and we know that on so many levels we have seen where crack changed the game. But he was a drug, I mean, not I can say he was a drug addict, but he was doing drugs at a very, very young age. Probably started off with marijuana and moved into, you know, other things. Now, he wanted to get out of Buffalo. They said Buffalo was probably the most racist city, you know, and that it was a terrible place. It was segregated. It really wasn't a great place to grow up. And how everybody wanted to get out of Buffalo, like as soon as they could. They said, but once they sort of all got of age, the Vietnam War was going on. And so a lot of them, you know what? I knew I had heard that Buffalo, you know. But once again, unfortunately, it was just like a lot of those other you know, cities where you have an industry based off of manufacturing, and when the manufacturing goes, you know, basically Prince's estate is still in probate. Morris Day went to get the name trademark, and that's when the trustee holders were alerted because currently no one owns it, so it was rejected. Oh, but that was I mean, that's actually a smart thing. If it hasn't, if it ain't if nobody owns it, but that doesn't make sense. If nobody owns it, then how can they say no? If nobody owns the name, why he can't go get the name? I understand that Prince's estate is in probate, but is that one of the things that's a part of his estate? Questioning whether he owns the name or not. Anyway, that's another conversation. I don't want to get sidetracked, y'all. I don't want to get sidetracked. So Tracy says she ain't going to big dirty Buffalo, child. So so he went to the military. Now, I just told you that Rick James was a delinquent and doing whatever he wanted to do. So y'all know that him and the military didn't mix. He actually went into, I think he said he went into the reserves because he didn't have to like go into active duty. He said, but they ain't tell me that I had to keep going to the meetings. And so he stopped going to the meetings. I guess you know how the reserves, you have to go once a month, or, you know, you have to do your weekend a month or whatever. So yeah. So he went AWOL, and when he went AWOL, which a lot of people during the Vietnam War, they went AWOL, he went to Canada, which is where a lot of people went. Now, he said he was in Canada, and he said, you know, they sold everybody the dream. Well, all black people, they sold them the dream that in Canada, you know, ain't no racism, right? And he said he was there one night, and some dude called him a nigger, and he got ready to fight. And he said, basically, them dudes was really about to whoop my ass. But he got saved by a couple of dudes from a band called the Hawks, and they saved him, and basically he became cool with them, and this started pretty much a 10-year cycle of him joining bands and the bands falling out and him joining bands and then him, you know, things not working out. So this is where it started. Now, in some of these early bands, he worked with people like Neil Young and other people who went on to become part of like these big folk bands, you know, in the 70s. He, you know, he knew Joni Mitchell and somebody else. And some of the people from this band ended up playing in Bob Dylan's band later on. So he hobnobbed with some big people that were a part of the folk that were going to become a part of that big folk. Hey, what's up, Gail? How you doing, boo? scene in the like mid 70s, late 60s, early 70s kind of thing. And so they ended up signing with Motown. They got a couple of songs and they went down to Motown. And I mean, they were a mixed band. I mean, Rick James was their lead singer, but they were basically a white band. But Motown was still in Detroit at the time. And they didn't think nothing of it. Like, they had them come down there. They cut a couple of songs, couple of demos. But somewhere during this time period, the band fell out with their manager. They had a big falling out. And the manager got mad. He got in his feelings, and he turned Rick James in. He knew Rick James was a Dodger. He knew he was AWOL from the military, so he snitched on him. So Rick James had to go to the brig for a couple of years, and by the time he got out the brig, of course, the band had done their own thing, and that's when some of the other guys from the band had gone on and became part of these really big bands, and they were making money and stuff. So he went out, when he got out the brig, he went out to LA. And again, he went from band to band to band to band. And nothing, he just couldn't get nothing to stick. He went back to Motown. He was a staff writer for Motown. He did background vocals for Motown. But again, it just didn't work out. He wanted to make rock and roll. And of course, Motown wasn't really doing rock and roll. And he ended up becoming a part of this band called the White Canes. It was during this time that he met his first love. Her name was Seville Gorman, I believe. And they met at an orgy. Now listen. I mean, I know it was the 70s, okay? I know it was free love and all of that. But it was funny because they had they had put old interviews of Rick James, and you heard Rick James' voice throughout the documentary. And so Rick James was saying how he was at a party, and the party was, one of those Hollywood parties full of decadence and drugs and, sex and all of this. And so you heard the producer asking Seville, because she was interviewed for the documentary, and you heard Seville say that the producer asked her, so Rick said y'all met at an orgy. She was like, I mean, I wouldn't say, it was a respectable orgy. I was like, respectable orgy? It was the 70s. No judgment here. I know a lot of shit went down in the 70s that we would look at differently now. So there's no judgment, but it was just funny how she was trying to quantify the orgy. Like, don't be putting it out there like that. Like, don't be trying to make it seem like that. Okay? But she said that he asked, he was like, you want to go somewhere? And she was like, yeah, let's go. And he was like, I went back to her house and I was there for 3 years. We had 2 kids. I was like, well, can't be mad about that. It worked out. Let me see what y'all saying in the chat. I'm late. Buffalo's my hometown, and Rick James was a king to us back in the day. So many memories. Yes. Well, they talked about, yes, honey. Rick was a freak in the morning, a freak in the evening. Yes, he was a freak. Love at first sight during a group activity, my lord. Never a dull moment. Respectable orgy. Right. She was really trying to, and I think I understood what she was trying to say though. Like, I don't want y'all to think it was just like, yeah. It was like a couple of people over here might have been having sex. A couple of people over there might have been, and I was looking at him and he was looking at me and we was looking at each other. You know what I'm saying? Freaks. And these children acting like they started ish. Child, these kids ain't started nothing. They just, I think they just a little more vocal about it, child. Right. Did they have great poupon? Right. She was trying to quantify because it was her. No, it was the mama telling the story. It was his ex-girlfriend telling the story. Yeah. But maybe that's why, because she knew her churn was going to be watching. But at this point, her churn know who Rick James. We're going to get to that. Her churn know exactly who their daddy was. So while something very interesting that happened while he was with Seville, he became really good friends with a guy. I didn't write his name down. I apologize. But this guy invited Rick James to a party. The party was at Sharon Tate's house. Rick James didn't go to the party because he was tired that night. Him and Seville were actually supposed to go to this party. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, I'm going to tell you. Sharon Tate was the house where Charles Manson, where they had the Helter Skelter, where they murdered like the 4 or 5 people, and Sharon Tate was one of the people that was killed. It was at her house. He was invited to that party. Had Rick James not been too tired to go, we might not never know who Rick James is, because he would have been there that night. Him and his girlfriend would have been there that night. And she said she was actually angry because she wanted to go to the party, because Sharon Tate was a big movie star. She wanted to go meet Sharon Tate. And he was too tired to go. And he said, I'll make it up to you. We'll go to dinner. We'll do something, do something later on in the week. I'm just too tired to go tonight. I said, see how God it be divine intervention sometimes. It be divine intervention, child. So things weren't really working out. Rick said after that happened, it really bothered him. I'm sure I'm sure he might have had some survivor's guilt behind it. That was a friend of his. One of the guys who was there that invited him to the party was there, and he got killed. So I'm sure he said that really bothered him. So he actually left LA and he went back to Buffalo. Buffalo was his safe space, because it seems like he went back to Buffalo a lot whenever things weren't going right for him. Like this is about the 3rd or 4th time that he talked about he went back home. He went back and moved and lived with his mama. So he moved back to Buffalo. And while he was in Buffalo, he ain't had no money. But they said, once again, Rick was a hustler. They said he used to deal drugs. He used to do what he had to do. And so he said that him and some guy, they did a real big deal. He said, we went down to Columbia. We made a real big. He said, I guess I shouldn't get too much into the details, because again, this is him telling his story. He said, we made a real big deal. I made a lot of money. I came back to Buffalo, and that's when I decided I got to get in the studio. Like, I got to make this happen. So he said that he was back in Buffalo, and some of his friends, some of the guys he knew from the clubs, from the bands, he asked them, he said, listen, who's hot right now? Like, who's the hottest music on the radio right now? And they were like, Boosie, George Clinton, Funkadelic, Boosie Collins, like that's the music that was on the radio. And he said, he was like, okay, he said he started listening to the music. No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. He was listening to the radio, and that's what he was hearing on the radio. And that's when he asked his friends, who are the best musicians in town? That's what it was. I want to get that right. He heard the music for himself, but he had to ask around for the best musicians. And they were like, oh, so-and-so is the best drummer in the town, in Buffalo. So-and-so is the best keyboardist. So-and-so is the best this. He was like, all right, get him. We're going into the studio. So he took the money he made from this big score, went to the studio. He cut his demo. And he cut his demo for his first, what would have become, or what was to become his first album, called Come and Get It. He took that demo and he went out to LA and he shopped it at every record company in LA. The last person he ever wanted, he did not want to go back to Motown. He absolutely did not want to go back to Motown. He went everywhere else, but he ran into a Motown exec on the radio. The guy, in the elevator, the guy was like, "What you doing here, Rick?" He said, "I'm trying to shop my new album." He was like, "Let me hear it." And basically, the rest is history. The dude heard it. He was like, "Boom. Boom." You heard Sammy Davis Jr. was supposed to be there too. It was a Hollywood party. It was an intimate Hollywood party. Like, it wasn't like everybody and their cousin. But I can believe that. It was somebody else. And maybe it was Sammy Davis Jr. But it was somebody else. I read a biography or saw like a biography or something. And they were supposed to be there. It was another famous. It may have been Sammy Davis. So that's how he formed the Stone City Band, which became his band for many years. Like, they were his band until he really just got so strung out. They were like, all right, we out. Like, you're not paying us. You too high to even work at this point. Like, deuces. So they were his band for years. And actually, when he got out of jail, and he actually got the band back together, and all of them came back. So they were his friends. They were friends of his from Buffalo, and then the ones he wasn't friends with, they built a friendship. He explained that the braids concept, he said he was inspired by the Beatles. You know, for those of you who don't know or don't follow or know anything about the Beatles, that Beatles haircut became a phenomenon. Like, that bowl haircut that they all had. It became a thing. It was like their trademark. And so he said he was inspired by that with the Beatles, and he wanted something like that. And he said he was on a plane with a woman from the Maasai tribe in Africa, and she had the braids. And he said he started talking to her about it and asking her about it. And she actually showed him a book of the different, pictures of different styles. And he was like, "Can you do that?" And she said, "Yeah, I could do your hair like that." And he was like, "All right, that's what I want." And so he made it a requirement to be in the band. You had to get your hair braided. And of course, this is the early 80s, late 70s. Like, guys weren't braiding their hair like we do now. Like, they had afros and stuff like that, but they weren't braiding their hair like that. It wasn't common. It wasn't a common thing. Especially not the way Rick James was doing it. Like, he wasn't just doing straight cornrows. Like, he was doing braids. Like, men weren't braiding their hair like that. So y'all know what Rick James' hair used to look like. So that's where the braid inspiration came from. Okay, and you wasn't getting if you didn't get your hair braided, you couldn't be in the band. That was it. Oh, look, I was like, hold on, I jumped to the end. I gotta hold up. I know I got more notes than this. Okay, yeah. I turned it over and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So once that album hit, it was a hit. That was what it had You and I on there, and it was another big hit of his that was on that first album. And from that point, it was just the money was coming in. They moved into the Hearst mansion, one of the Hearst mansions that was huge. He moved the whole band in, like they all lived together. The house was so big that they were like, we never saw each other. He was like, we used to have to get on the, because they're talking to members of the band too. They were like, we used to have to get on the intercom to look for each other. Like that, it was so big. Rick James started the braided wig trend. Well, it wasn't a wig, like that was their hair. But I mean, I guess I ain't gonna say he started the trend. But it was he definitely put a mark on it. And they showed the mansion. It was a beautiful house, but all of them lived in the mansion, and they talked about how generous he was, right? They talked about how generous he was as far as bonuses and traveling, and they would fly private jets, and they all lived in the mansion, and all of that. Now, the problem was, fast forward towards the end of this, when the band started breaking up, yeah, he was generous about doing stuff like that for them, but he wasn't generous about sharing his money with them. So, like, for example, putting their name on songs so that they could get publishing, paying them in actual cash, like it was like, well, you living here for free. It don't matter that I'm living here for free. Thank you, Tracy. It don't matter that I'm living here for free. Can I get paid, but in the beginning it was all new. A lot of those guys had never even been out of Buffalo, so for them to be in Hollywood, living in a mansion, flying private jets, I think for a long time it didn't bother them. It was probably when all of that started running out that they were like, wait a minute. Because one of the guys was like, I knew people in other bands playing for other artists, and they were making money. Like, they were buying houses in the Caribbean because they were getting paid. And we were like, what the fuck? Like, where's our money? So this is where we first start. And of course, everything was in abundance. It was plenty of women. It was plenty of drugs, sex, orgies, all that stuff. And this is where you first start hearing people talk about, for lack of a better word, the masochist. Is that what I want to say? That Rick James was. They talked about how he pushed women sexually. He pushed their inhibitions, and if a woman didn't say no, he would kept going. They said it was I'm trying to find the right word, but he was very rough with women, and he would push them. Like, he would hit them, and he would, torture them, and he would get into the S&M and all these different things. And it was like he would wait. Again, if you didn't put the boundaries in and you didn't tell him to stop, he didn't stop. And they said that this was, he had almost like that demon inside of him sexually. Like he, and then his ex-wife talked about how it wasn't even so much that he was always in it, testing them. Yeah, it wasn't so much that he was always in it. Sometimes he would be on the background, like just watching or videotaping, or organizing. And that sounded very familiar to what they said that the people, when we looked at the Secrets of Playboy, a lot of them said the same thing about Hugh Hefner. He pushed the boundaries, but it wasn't always him doing it. Sometimes it was other people, that he was in the background orchestrating or videotaping while he had other people doing it, right? Rick said, you better have a safe word messing with him. Right. I don't even know if you needed to have a safe word. You better just say no, because it sounded like he didn't care about your safe word. And of course, when you add drugs and alcohol into it, that, that affects it as well. They said that his first album was a hit, and it started basically a string of hits. They said he released 9 albums in 6 years, and all of them were hits. Like, all of them were hits. Enough of a hit. Hugh was breadcrumbing the Bunny Child. He was doing a lot of stuff, very much like Little Richard. Leo Brown. I don't know a lot about about Little Richard when it comes to that. I might have to see. What's up, Leo? Hey, boo. I'm gonna have to look at that. I don't really know a lot about Little Richard when it comes to that. I did not know. Okay. B-Lo said, oh, he was a freak. Oh, yeah, no, we know he was a freak child. Yes. And B-Lo got some inside scoop. I'm sure she got some local stories she could tell, honey. Like, when you, like, she grew up in Buffalo during that time. So she got some local stories. And I'm sure we're going to get to that when we get to his criminal charges. We're going to get to that. But yes, honey. So then he hit probably his biggest album of his career was Street Songs. And that was sort of his breakout hit. It went triple platinum, when they went on tour for that album, that tour, the Street Songs tour, he made $40 million off of the Street Songs tour. Now, remember, $40 million in 2022 is good money. But $40 million, the Street Songs came out in 1982. So $40 million in 1984. Let's say the album came out in 82. He went on tour 83, 84. Like, again, it ain't nothing to sneeze at now. But imagine a $40 million tour in the early mid 80s. Bitch. Okay. Like, ugh. What's up, Universal Love? Hey. Little Richard was a freak. Tutti Frutti was a very sexual song. I'm gonna have to, you know what? See, I'm gonna put that on my list. I'm gonna have to go find a good biography of Little Richard, because now I'm nervous. Now I want to know. Back then, that was long money. Hell yeah! I mean, it's good money now, but back then, bitch, $40 million off of one tour. I didn't say he made $40 million in the 80s. He made $40 million off of that one tour in the 80s. Okay? Now, and of course, if everything was abundant before, it was definitely, the abundance was pushed up a notch during this time period, because, I mean, he had all the money he could ever want, which came with everything else. Okay? Which came with everything else, right? Unfortunately, around this time is when we start seeing cocaine switching over from cocaine to crack. And of course, Rick went along, he went there, and again, the people around him are talking about how that was the worst thing that could have happened, because the thing about crack is that you could just smoke it for days and days and days, and Rick James definitely was doing all of that. Also, during this time, he was like the golden boy of Motown. So now they pretty much let him do whatever he wanted to do. So he started producing other acts because he had the golden touch. So that's what we see Tina Marie, the Mary Jane Girls. We see him doing songs for the Temptations and Smokey Robinson, Eddie Murphy. A lot of people may not remember that Eddie Murphy came out with a whole album that Rick James had produced for him. With My Girl Likes to Party All the Time, and then he had a slow song on there too. But if you remember Eddie Murphy's music, you remember My Girl Likes to Party All the Time. Tina Marie was actually a staff writer at Motown. Motown knew she was talented, but they didn't know what to do with her. You know what I'm saying? They knew she was talented, but she was a white girl that sounded black. They didn't know what to do with her. But Rick James heard her singing, He ran into her in, in the offices of Motown, and he heard her singing, and he didn't care that she was white and sounded black. He was like, that girl can sing, and I can make her a star. And so that's what he did. He started producing her. Now, they said that their relationship started off, like brother and sister, but ended up husband and wife. They never got married, but they very much were in a sexual relationship. She thought they was gonna get married, but yeah, Rick was never really trying to marry her. Not that he didn't love her, but he just won't try to marry her. Obviously, during this time period, he spent no time with his children. Okay, he very much, mine is If I Were a Belle. Ooh, I mean, outside of Fire and Desire, but If I Were a Belle, but Portuguese Love is good too. But If I Were a Belle gets me. Ooh. Anyway, yeah, it's on Showtime. Yeah, Square Biz. Yeah, that's the. If I had a ballad, it's If I Were a Belle. Out again, except for Fire and Desire. Fire and Desire is always gonna be number one. But her fast song is Square Biz. That's yeah. Square Biz is everything. Ooh La 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 is good too. Yeah. Rick and Teens was a mess. He fucked her up. Oh Lord. Oh, Rick and Tina. Yeah, child. So. Out on the limb. Oh yes. Oh, you know what, Leo. Out on the Limb got to be on there too. That's 1, 2, and 3. Out on the Limb. So. Oh, I'm gonna be listening to some Tina Marie when I get off of here. Damn, that's my song. So, they talked about his children. So, he had 2 children. I told y'all from Seville. 2 children by Seville that he did not see. He ain't spend time with. He ain't know him. Barely remember. I feel like he probably barely remember he had 2 children. And so his second born, who's a son, Rick Jr., he would go around bragging about their daddy. Now the oldest, the daughter Ty, she was like, I knew who my daddy was, but I mean, she said, you would think, you see your father's rich and living this lifestyle, you would think that we were supposed to have the best and nice bags and nice clothes and living good. She was like, and we weren't. He didn't give them no money. Like Seville was like, not only did he not give us no money, I don't even think he know where we live. And the little brother used to brag about his daddy being Rick James. He bragged to everybody. And his sister used to tell him, boy, stop telling people our daddy Rick James with us living the way we living. Like, don't nobody believe that. Like, stop it before you get us all beat up, right? But what happened was one of the Rick Jr.'s, one of his friends' daddy did security for Rick James. And so he went to Rick James and was like, yo, it's these 2 kids claiming that they're yours. Rick was like, they might be. Like, you know who they are? Like, you know where they are? And so Rick actually hired a private investigator to make sure that those were really his kids. And his daughter, Ty, said she remembers the day that the private investigator knocked on their door to ask them questions to, like, I guess, verify that it was the right kids. And then he flew them out to Buffalo because, again, he's back in his safe space. He's in Buffalo. Flew them out to Buffalo. She said she was 13 years old the first time she met her father. Because, of course, when he left, she was a baby. So, but it sounds like from that point forward, they were in his life. That they spent time with him and they were in his life. And she said when she was with her dad, when she would stay with her dad, she said it wasn't nothing for her to wake up and have to step over naked women, naked bodies. She said, I never saw my father getting high, but I knew he got high. Like, I knew he would get high. I saw him high. I just never saw him actually getting high. She said, I feel like he tried to keep it, to ratchet it back a little bit when we were staying with him, when we would spend time with him. But, she said it wasn't nothing for me to wake up at 7 a.m. and have to step over just naked women. She said that was just par for the course. So around this time, Rick James, y'all know how this go. Everything that goes up must come down. Rick James is riding a high, but just like he was chasing P-Funk and Funkadelic and George Clinton, somebody is behind him chasing him. And who would that person be? Prince. So Prince is coming up on his heels. Now, Prince and Rick James had this love-hate relationship, right? They had this love-hate relationship where Rick James respected who Prince was, respected that he was this great artist, but he hated him because, again, of who he was coming up on his heels. Now, Prince went on tour with them, and Prince opened up for them. And they said that Prince would steal their stuff. And because he was opening up for them, he would do it first, and then they would come on stage, and it had already been done, and it used to irritate the hell out of Rick James. He said, for example, that ooh it, ooh it that Prince does, he stole that from Rick James. Rick James used to do that, and Prince stole it, and Prince started doing it on stage, and they said Rick confronted him and was like, yo, you can't be doing our shit. Like, that's my shit. And Prince told him, you don't have no monopoly on ooh it, ooh it. Like, everybody can say ooh it, ooh it. And that sounds like some shit Prince would say too. Like, you don't have no, you don't own it. So they said that the tour was very tumultuous. Like, they said that they would unplug each other's like equipment while they were on stage, and child, all that stuff. But it was a respect there as well. During this time period, Rick James also was getting into battle with MTV. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning of this. MTV, when it first started, let's just gonna call a spade a spade. When MTV first started, it was not for us, okay? MTV was about white music for white kids, all right? It was not about diversity. It was not about black music. It was not about inclusion. It was white music for white people, right? Rick James, who had, again, Super Freak was it. Super Freak was the breakout hit from Street Songs. They had a video for it, and Rick James wanted to know why he couldn't get played. Why can't Super Freak get played? The video for Super Freak, why can't it get played? And he felt like Motown didn't fight hard enough to get the song on MTV. He felt like they didn't fight hard enough. So he felt like, they didn't have his back. And it also, upset him that he had one of the biggest songs in the country, but he couldn't get on MTV. Now, ultimately, we know that MTV finally allowed the first black video was Michael Jackson. And they said that them bringing Michael Jackson on was a direct response to Rick James pressing, and it was like, well, we're not gonna put Rick James on, but we'll get a black person on so they can't say we don't play black music no more. And that was that. Let me see what y'all saying, and then I'll keep going. Fun fact, Prince once refused to sign an autograph for Rick James' mother, and he wanted to fight Prince. Both of their debut albums came out in 1978. Prince opened up for him in 1980. Okay, thank you, Universal Love. Yes. So they went to Rick's house. They were raising themselves. Yeah, basically. Prince was riding that white horse, naked, going on Rick fast, gaining on Rick fast. Prince was a mess in his time. A lot of artists didn't like performing because sometimes he would do the most and garner all the attention. Yeah, listen, Prince is no angel, y'all. Prince is no angel. Prince is the poster child of unbothered clapbacks. He was. Prince was my husband. Rick James was my man on the side. I would pay to see a Rick James versus Prince. Oh, I would too. Yep, I would too. I'd be here for it. Ultimately, Rick James videos ain't, I ain't gonna say never, ever, ever, but if they did, it was a long, long, long time before a Rick James video ever got played on MTV, because ultimately MTV had to acquiesce and finally let black artists on. But because Rick James was so vocal and public, like he went to the media about MTV. So because he was so vocal about it, MTV was like, okay, we'll put all the other black people on before we put you on, because you ain't never gonna get on here. They need a documentary on Michael Jackson while listening to stories from people who weren't in America. I now understand his impact. They do have a documentary on Michael Jackson, don't they? I can't believe they. Yeah, they. I know they got a Michael Jackson documentary. I know they got to have one. Prince will put people on, but if you messed up, he would find you. Oh, absolutely. Well, again, we were talking about that yesterday with Morris Day and the Time. We talked about, I mean, if you read Morris Day's book or you listen to his Unsung, I mean, you hear about the petty shit that Prince used to do. Again, I love Prince and I'm a Prince fan, but listen, Prince has some shit with him. Prince definitely has some shit with him, honey. All right. So let's get to this. So, okay. Prince was petty. He had the home demolished that he lived in with his second wife. Really? Oh, yeah, he petty, child. All right. Now, let me tell y'all the story about how Rick James' career with his contract with Motown ended, or his career with Motown ended. Let's talk about this. Now, at this point, Rick James' drug use was out of control, okay? He came out with an album after Street Songs, but it didn't do as well. Like I said, he made $40 million off of the tour for Street Songs. He made $14 million off of his next tour with his next song his next album, because it didn't do as well. So he comes back. Now Motown, he got paid $1 million per album for his albums with Motown. So of course, most of his money came off of touring. Again, $1 million in the 80s is nothing to sneeze at, but $1 million versus $40 million or $14 million, again, that's not your paycheck, right? So he went to the Motown offices with his new album, and he gave it to the president of Motown at the time, white guy at the time. By this time, Motown had sold, Berry Gordy had sold Motown. He was no longer in charge. It was out in LA. So it was Motown, really only a name, only at that time. It wasn't like Berry Gordy Motown. So it was a white guy. I didn't write his name down. White guy who was running Motown at the time. So Rick went in there with his manager, who happened to be Berry Gordy's son, but whatever. That's another conversation. He gave the guy his album. The guy gave him his check for $1 million, and Rick went off. He was like, F this check. I don't give a damn about this $1 million. You sell my album. You make sure you make this album a hit. You sell my records, because I need to go on tour. He said, I only made $14 million off of this last tour, and that's y'all's fault, because y'all didn't sell my album. So fuck this $1 million. Y'all sell my album, right? Then he proceeds to take out some cocaine, line it up on the desk, snort it, and then he jumps up on top of the desk, thrusts his pelvis in the man's face, and tell him to sell his mother effing record. He then jumps off the desk and exits stage left with his $1 million check. The president of Motown looked at Rick James' manager and said, Lionel Richie. And that's where you saw Motown switch all of their energy, promotion, everything else to Lionel Richie. You saw Lionel Richie blow up in the late 80s, early 90s. And Rick James was out of Motown. I said, damn. Y'all, when I said, he did what? Now, it was bad enough that he cussed the man out over $1 million, but you proceeded to... You snorted coke off that man's desk? Bold. Just what you gonna say about that? What's up, Zara? Hey, boo. How you been doing? When I don't see you for a while, I worry about you. How you been? Hope you've been okay. Child, listen. Y'all, I opened up a soda. Well, it wasn't a soda. It was a water. It was it was like this, and that thing exploded. All right. Whew, we almost done, y'all. We almost done. I'm on my last page of notes. So this situation dissolved into a lawsuit. So for about 5 years, he couldn't make an album. He could tour and stuff like that. But he was so strung out on drugs at this time that he really could not function long enough to go on a tour. But he was in the middle of a lawsuit with Motown, and at the end of that, he said during this time period he was spending $6,000 to $8,000 a week on drugs. And it was around this time that we start seeing, hip hop, right? Rap and hip hop. And we know that in the early days of hip hop, they were sampling. I mean, they still do. I shouldn't say the early days. They still do it. Sampling. They don't do it as much because they do their own beats now. But a lot of them were, well, no, that's a lot. They said, anyway, they sampled the hits shit. They were sampling it. And he said that a couple of his songs have been sampled. And he told his manager, I don't want them sampling. He didn't like rap. He didn't like the idea of them taking his music. And he didn't want them using his music. And he told his manager, I don't want any more rap artists using my songs. I don't want any more using I'm glad to hear that, boo. I don't want any more rap artists using my music. And he says he was in his car one day riding around and he heard dun 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 dun. And he said, I was like, oh, okay, they playing my music. Okay. I'm coming back, right? They playing my music on the radio again. He said, and then he heard, don't touch this. And he said he got so angry. He called his manager immediately and was cussing his manager out and was like, I thought I told you I don't want any more rap artists using my music. He said his manager told him how much money he was making off that song. He was like, oh, all right then. Well, that's okay then. They said that Rick James probably made more money off of MC Hammer's Can't Touch This than he did when he originally made Super Freak. And remember now, Super Freak was like his biggest financial hit. Let me put a pin in that. Let me go back to Super Freak for a second, because I kind of glossed over Super Freak, y'all. Rick was cold. I might could get past the booger sugar, but the putting your man meat in my face. Right. Now let's put a pin in that. Let's go back to Super Freak. Y'all probably don't, again, when I say y'all know I'm talking to the young folk in the room, okay? People in my age, y'all remember all of this. But what was funny to me was he said one of the reasons why Rick, and this is Rick James, his voice, this is him saying this, so this isn't a story somebody's telling. One of the reasons why he didn't want rap artists using his music is because he said that they were disrespectful to women and they didn't respect women. I'm sorry, sir, what? You came out with a whole song calling women a super freak. That whole song is about the women being super freaks. Your whole stage persona is naked women and women in lingerie. Your backup dancers in lingerie, and you had a whole group and orgies, and you mad at the rap people because you say they disrespectful to women. I'm sorry, sir, what? I just thought that was ironic. What's up, Auntie? I just thought that was ironic, right? And so they talked about when Super Freak came out, how like back then you could get away with certain things that you probably wouldn't be able to get away with now. And I disagree with that. I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like Super Freak was cutting edge and Rick James could get away with it that maybe another artist couldn't. But nowadays we got shit like WAP. Like, y'all think Rick James couldn't get away with Super Freak in 2022? Because they were like, well, the misogyny and, the Me Too movement of the day, he probably wouldn't be able to get away with that. I disagree. Y'all tell me in the chat, what do y'all think? I think that in 2022, now I understand the whole Me Too thing. Like, I get the Me Too movement and all of that, but I disagree. I think in 2022, it's the exact opposite. I think people get away with way more. Way more. He glorified women in his mind. He said, she's all right. She's all right. That girl's all right with me. Right. That's PG. Right. That's what I felt. So when they said that in the documentary, I disagree with that. I was like, I don't know what they talking about. And again, I know that with the Me Too movement, there are certain things with the Me Too movement that people can't get away with anymore. Like, I get that part. But a song being misogynistic, I disagree. Exactly. Women are still being disrespected and that music is still selling. Exactly. Right. If anything, like I said, Rick's music will be tame in 2022. Not tame, but it because some of his stuff would still be. Right. Rick James, Pot Meat Kettle. Right. Like, come on. For real, sir. But when I was listening to it, I was like, did he really just say that? And of course, the clip that they played in the documentary, I guess to prove their point about hip hop being so raunchy, they played a 2 Live Crew lyric. And I'm like, of all the rap of that time period, you picked 2 Live Crew. That's the one. Like, don't get me wrong, 2 Live Crew was raunchy as shit, but they were like 1% of rap. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't. You know what I mean? They were 1%. I mean, look at who gave you your biggest paycheck? MC Hammer. Nothing raunchy about MC Hammer. Nothing. Okay. If anything, people accuse him of being corny, not raunchy. He'd probably get a Kirk Franklin feature. Right. Okay. Ciao. So anyway, I had to put a pin in that and come back to that. So anyway, so again, like I said, the one thing in this documentary that wasn't missing was Rick James not having any money. It wasn't until he went to court and they had they had an interview of him after he got out of jail where he said something about he never said he was running out. He didn't ever say he was broke, but he said the money was running low or I was running out of money. But again, I think his estate is fine. I think right now his estate financially, I think his children are taken care of. His wife, who he was married to when he died, I think they're all good. But anyway, so this is around the time. Well, speaking of which, this is around the time he met his soon-to-be wife. Her name was Tanya. She was 17. Now, that brings me to another song. You know, Rick James has a song called 17, right? She was only 17, but she was sexy. So again, Rick, you talking about hip hop, you had a whole song about a 17-year-old that you was lusted after. I'm just saying. And he met Tanya. I think they said he was 39 when he met Tanya, who was 17. Now, let me tell you something about Miss Tanya. Tanya was already a wild child. Tanya said she was already on drugs and doing what she was doing when she met Rick James, okay? So at 17, you was already out there. You was already a wild child. He was strung out on drugs, and y'all was just a drug-ass couple together, okay? Clearly, if you was already out there at 17, and she had a nerve to say, well, I mean, he didn't look like he was that old. I mean, I thought he was closer to my age. You know, black don't crack. First of all, girl, go sit your ass down. Because they had her in the documentary. And I was like, girl, first of all, you knew that man was nowhere near your damn age. You knew, I don't believe that you didn't know who Rick James was. And so if you knew who Rick James was, you damn sure know that Rick James wasn't nowhere near 17. Let's be clear. Nowhere near 17. Even if you thought he was 30, that still means he was 13 years older than you and you were still under 18. Girl, go have several seats. I was side-eyeing Miss Tanya. But again, I'm going to give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because her ass did admit that she was strung out on drugs. So she probably was. Rick James looked old when he was young. Right. I mean, Rick James never, like when you look at the documentary and you see him aging in the documentary, yes. But yeah, girl, stop it. Yeah, she was on crack. So yeah, there you go. He knew Tanya's father, right? I don't remember. They might have said that in the documentary, but that didn't stick out. I actually don't remember how they said they met. I just remember his daughter was like, when she met her, was side-eyeing, and she actually pulled her father aside and was like, how old is she? And he lied to his daughter and was like, oh, she's over 21. No, he said she's 21. And she said, I gave him a look like, you're right. Like, she was like, there was no parts of her that was 21. Okay. She looked like she was still on drugs. Child, did you see that son? You know, they had a son together, and at the end of the documentary, it looks like his son is a rapper. Child. his son look a whole mess. I'm sorry. And I know I shouldn't judge a cover by I shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but child, that boy look a hot damn mess. Okay, he look a hot damn mess. Wait a minute, hold up. Wait a minute, Below, maybe not on record, but he called my sister a bald head bitch in a furniture store. Wait a minute, who called your sister? Rick James called your sister a bald head bitch. Wait a minute, Below. Oh, maybe because he didn't call them the B word. Oh, he called your sister a bald head. That's not fun. Below, I'm like, Liz, all right? That's not funny. He called your sister out her name. It's funny that you just came right back with that story, like, Because when we ran into Rick James down to the furniture store. I'm sorry, that's just for the people who just coming in. Below grew up in Buffalo during that time period, and so she said she got some stories, baby. That's oh Lord. Oh, I didn't know it was that late. Damn, it's almost 9:00, y'all. Ooh, I didn't know it was that late. Okay. Hey, Mr. Willie Brown, how you doing, boo? At 17, did she live a hard life in the face? Because, man, how did you think y'all was the same? If you look at them pictures, ain't no way in hell he thought she was the child. Listen, it's a lie. It's a lie. That's all it is a lie. Okay. Yeah, you saw that son. I was like, tattoos all on the face, and the music he made was sounding real. But do you, boo? We almost done, y'all. We almost at the end. So again, he hooked up with Tanya. They were both strung out, and at this point, he said he bought a house in the hills, and it pretty much turned into a crack den. Like, that's pretty much what it was. It was a crack den. His daughter talked about how they tried to intervene and try to get him help, and it just didn't turn out good. They told the story about one time they went up there to get the house. They cleaned the house up. They said it would just be people living in the house. Like, they would go and pick up these random strange people, and they would just go on these crack binges for days at a time, and these people would just be up in the house. Not at 7:42 there. Continue. Ella, don't do that. And so his daughter told a story about one time she ended up in the hospital because he threw stuff at her and some cut her foot, and she had to go get stitches, and it was bad. It was bad. It really wasn't until this sexual assault and torture case that really probably saved his life for him living as long as he did. I mean, ultimately, we know he still died early, but it actually saved his life for a while because what's up, Abby? But so this is what I'm gonna say about these two cases. Okay, so there were two separate cases. The first case was the sexual assault and torture case. They actually were going to make a deal with him, and he wasn't going to actually have to go do any jail time. He was going to go sent to rehab. Him and Tanya were going to be sent to rehab. But unfortunately, while they were waiting for that to be solidified, they had another case, a battery case, and then that's when the DA was like, okay, listen, we was trying to work with y'all. We was trying to help y'all asses out. Y'all still out here getting in trouble, so we can't do nothing for you. And that's how he ended up going to jail for 5 years. But let me put a pin in that and go back. So the first case, the first woman talked about how basically she was in the house. She was there doing drugs or whatever. And at the end of it, couple of years, and at the end of them couple of years, couple of days, at the end of that time period, that's when she went to the police. And she did have burn marks on her and all of the above. But this is what I'm going to say about that. And y'all know over here, we believe the victim and all that good stuff. But let me say this about this situation. Rick James said, listen, we was all strung out. We was all doing drugs. We was all having sex. I believe 100% that that's what it was. I believe you was up there willingly. Y'all was getting high. Y'all was having sex. Y'all was doing drugs. Yeah, you had some burn marks on you. Tanya had burn marks on her. Yes, he was probably doing all that y'all said he was doing, but y'all was high and y'all was doing it together. And I'm not saying that means that just because y'all was getting high, that mean that man could do whatever he wanted to do to you. But I feel like it goes back to what his friends said about him early on in the documentary about that is how he was sexually. He would push women to the boundaries. And if you didn't stop him or you didn't, get out of it, then he kept going. He kept pushing. And they said that Tanya had burn marks on her too. So I feel like that was like a sexual game y'all was playing. He was burning you. He was burning her. Did he have any burn marks on him? Were y'all burning his ass back? And he said basically she was there until the drugs ran out. And then when the drugs ran out, she left and went to the police and said that I assaulted her. Listen, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I believe Rick on this one. I believe Rick. And I believe the DA believed Rick too. That's why they was going to make a deal with him. Because remember, he wasn't going to do jail time for that particular case. They were going to send his ass to rehab, him and Tanya. They was going to send their asses to rehab. And I believe that's why they were going to send him to rehab, because I believe that they probably believed that that's what the story was. That's how that shit went down. But the problem was there was another situation. Him and Tanya were in a hotel getting high. There was another woman there. And Tanya and that woman got into an argument. They got into a physical altercation. Tanya hit the woman hit Tanya back. I feel like that woman was getting the best of Tanya, and that's why Rick jumped in it. But Rick jumped in it, and he basically beat that woman up. And that's what did it. Because, see, I can't excuse that. If it was a one-on-one fight, just because your woman was getting beat up, oh, well, you ain't had no right to jump in that. You was a whole grown-ass man, and that woman, they showed the pictures of that woman. That woman had 2 black eyes and a busted lip. Like, you whooped that woman's ass. You beat her ass. Okay. Him tying these third party. Right, but that's that crackhead shit. Right, that's that crackhead shit. So, hold on a second, y'all. Yeah, but I don't know though. You right. An unidentified woman alleged in 2020 that Rick assaulted her in 1979 when she was 15 and living in a group home in Buffalo. She saw $50 million, but the case was dismissed. Let me be honest with y'all. If I'm gonna be honest, I feel like there probably are some victims out there. Especially when they talked about that, when his friends talked about how he would push those boundaries and stuff like that. I absolutely believe that there's some victims out there. I'm just saying in that particular case, I'm just saying I feel like anyway. So he went to jail. While he was in jail, he got clean. He became a Muslim, but Tanya said that ain't last long. When he got out of jail, him and Tanya had a son, their youngest son. His name is Tasmanian or something like that, something crazy child. He got the band back together. He went out on tour again, but of course, and no record company would do business with him. So he ended up basically doing his own thing, putting his album out independently. But ultimately we saw where it ended. Like his last really public appearance was at the award show with him and Tina Marie did Fire and Desire, and you could tell his voice was gone. His voice was shot, his infamous I'm Rick James bitch. They talked about that skit and how it sort of brought his name back up, it sort of brought his name back around. A lot of people who didn't know who Rick James was or, had forgot about him, so to speak. When Dave Chappelle did that skit, it sort of brought it around. he didn't like it, but he liked it at the same time. Like he really didn't like it because it sort of, but it put his name back out there. So it was kind of like a love-hate kind of thing. I mean, then he passed away. He had a stroke. He was recovering from the stroke, but ultimately he died. They said when he died, he had 6 different drugs in his system, child. They said that he just had demons, and his wife said that even that he tried to get clean. She said that in those last years, she said he was in 30 different rehab programs. And she said they spent more time after he got out of jail. They spent more time at Cedars-Sinai Hospital than they did at I got mods in here, so I know y'all gonna get that. They spent more time in rehab, at the hospital than they did doing anything else. So his health had really deteriorated. And she said that when he was sober, she said he would be sober for maybe 30 days at a time max. And he would be so depressed. It's almost like he had been on drugs for so long, for so many years, he didn't know how to function not being on drugs. Like he didn't know how to function sober. And so that's sad. And and after, like I said, he started doing drugs as a kid. And I'm sure it started off as him smoking weed, but yeah, they spam. They listen when they come through, baby. Because they did that one time in James's chat, and we couldn't get them fast enough. Oh my gosh, we couldn't get them fast enough. It's almost like when you block them, they multiply something. Child, but yeah. So ultimately, it's a really good documentary, y'all. Even though I just gave y'all an overview, I ain't give y'all everything. So go check it out. It is on Showtime. If you have Showtime, you can get it. If you don't have Showtime, you can rent it through Amazon Prime. I think you can get it through Amazon Prime for like $3.99, $4.99, something like that. I don't know how much it is. I don't want to lie to y'all. But you can rent it through Amazon Prime if you want to just watch it and you don't want to get Showtime. But it's really good. It's worth it. I would say, if you remember Rick James and you are into, that time period, it's worth the $7, $8. I think it is to rent it. It's worth it. It was good. I thought it was well done. I think it was fair. The one thing I when it comes to stuff, first of all, y'all know I love documentaries. What's up? P.O., what's up, Dana? You want to watch it again now? So yeah, the one thing when it comes to documentaries like this, I want to see people be fair. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to learn about all of this, but I also wanted to be fair. And I feel like it was. If you have access to a student email, Showtime is only $9. Oh, but look at that. Well, if you have access to somebody's student email, child, Showtime is 99 cents a month through Amazon Prime. Y'all better hop on that. Shoot. Thank you, Xavier. But anyway. So that's that, y'all. I told y'all I have a whole list of movies and documentaries and stuff that I want to watch and do reviews with y'all. And this one has been on my list for a long time. I said, when I come home today from getting my hair dirt, I'm gonna watch one of them. And it was either gonna be this one or Lululemon. I still want to do Lululemon. I'm gonna do Lululemon. I want to do what else is on my list? Hold on, let me tell y'all what else is on the list. Lululemon is on the list. The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I want to do that. Now that's more of a movie, I think. But if y'all remember, like Tammy Faye and Jim Baker back in the day, baby, I want to do that one. The other one I have on here is Summer of Soul. I want to do Summer of Soul. King Richard. Y'all know I said House of Gucci, but those are movies. And then Soul Kittens. What's it? Soul Kitten something. The Cabaret that Nikki Gilbert did. Soul Kittens Cabaret. I'm gonna do that closer. I'm gonna do the Soul Kittens Cabaret closer to the premiere of P-Valley. Okay, I'm gonna do that one closer to the premiere of P-Valley. So I'm gonna do a comparison of it. I'm gonna do a comparison. Yeah, House of Gucci is on Paramount now. Did I see the Teddy Pendergrass document? I did not. Oh, now let me add that. Because y'all know I love me some Teddy Pendergrass now. It's been so many rumors about Teddy Pendergrass. Okay, I'm gonna have to do Teddy Pendergrass. That's on Showtime too. Okay. So these are the things that's on my list, y'all. So I want y'all to know that I'm trying my best. I told y'all I'm getting caught up. I'm trying my best to get caught up, y'all. So Rick James was on the list. I got that one. But I got some other stuff on here. We're going to get someone. We're going to get someone. Y'all just got to be patient with a sister. A sister is trying to get caught up on all her reviews. Because y'all see, I'm still behind. Because I'm about to get off here now and get y'all some reviews, okay? But I'll see y'all tomorrow. Don't forget, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do Force tomorrow over on TSF because Retro is out of town. But y'all know if we're gonna do it, I'll post it on my community wall. I'll share it on the community wall. But he's on the if we do it, it probably won't be at 12:30 our normal time because he's actually on the West Coast, which means he's 3 hours behind us. So if we do it at 12:30 our time, it's what 9:30 his time, and I don't know if he's gonna be up and ready to do nothing. So if we do it tomorrow, it'll be later on in the day. But I'll let y'all know because I don't know. We haven't talked to it yet. Post my list. Okay, I could do that. I could post my list. Well, my list of like documentaries that I want to review. I could do that. All right, y'all. Everybody have a good evening. I'm about to get off of here. You'll be watching it. Well, let me know what you think. Put it on the community wall, Sam J. Let me know what you think. Because I shared this video. So when y'all go and watch it, y'all put y'all comments in there or under this video. Put under this video. Let me know what y'all think. All right, y'all. Let me get out of here. It's almost 9 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and who was it? Is it Lil Baby? Who got me watching this damn Love After Lockup? Who got me watching this damn Love After Lockup? What's up, Lamar? Y'all know they started a new season. Now, I didn't do Love during Lockup, but I'm about to watch this last night's episode of Love After Lockup. I'm going to let y'all know how I feel about that. I see y'all putting Hamilton in the chat. Don't be spamming my chat with Hamilton, Danny. The Teddy one is a good one. Okay. All right. It's on the list. It is on the list. I'm not making no promises about when we're going to get it, but it's on the list. Remember, tomorrow we're doing book club. We're doing book club tomorrow too. And like I said, at some point we're doing the hopefully we'll be doing Force tomorrow. All right, y'all, let me get out of here. Everybody have a good evening, and I will talk to y'all later. Thank you to my mods as always. Oh, if you are not subscribed to the channel, if you stumbled across this review, or you watching it for the first time, y'all go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It is free, $99. You did? Did you like it, Zara? Did you like it? Not a white version of put a ring. We're not doing that. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. What was I going to say? See, y'all made me lose my train of thought. Oh, and please hit that like button. Please hit that like button. And go ahead and shop my Amazon storefront. There's a couple of new journals over there, and I'm going to be updating some items. Over there, okay? All right, y'all. Peace. I'll talk to y'all later.